A week before my son's wedding, I overheard that my family planned to use me as a babysitter for 15 children for the entire party. So I changed my plans. On the day of the wedding, my son called in a panic. "Where are you?" I laughed and told them not to wait for me, and also not to expect the buffet I had promised to prepare. My name is Alice. I'm 72 years old, and I never thought that at my age I would have to teach such a hard lesson to my own family. Stay with this story until the very last moment. The ending will astonish you. After you've seen it, let me know what you'd do in my place. For months, I had been preparing everything for my son Mark's perfect wedding. I had promised to take care of the entire buffet because I wanted to save them money. I estimated it would cost me around $3,000 for all the ingredients, but I would do it with love. I had also offered to decorate the hall, make the centerpieces, and coordinate with the vendors. It was my gift to them, my way of showing how much I loved my son and how happy I was that he had found love again. Vivian seemed like the perfect daughter-in-law when Mark introduced me to her 2 years ago. She was always very polite with me. She called me Mrs. Alice with respect. She brought flowers when she came over and offered to help in the kitchen. "Mrs. Alice, let me help you with those dishes," she would say with that charming smile. "Your food is delicious. Mark is so lucky to have grown up eating like this." If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my story of revenge from. I want to know how far it has reached. Mark was beaming with happiness, and after years of being a widower, seeing him in love again filled my heart with joy. I was in my kitchen that Tuesday afternoon making the final shopping list for the buffet when I heard voices in the backyard. My son Mark was on the phone with someone from work, and Vivian was talking to her sister Audrey, who had come to visit from out of town. At first, I didn't pay attention. I was focused on calculating how many pounds of meat I would need to feed 150 guests, how many salads to prepare, how many desserts. But then I heard my name, and something in Vivian's tone made me stop. I silently moved closer to the kitchen window that overlooked the backyard, staying hidden behind the curtain. "Look, Audrey, I have everything perfectly organized for the kids at the wedding," Vivian was saying in that sweet voice she always used with me. "Mark's mom is going to stay and watch them for the whole party. There are about 15 children from the guests, from babies to teenagers, but she's totally used to it. That way, we adults can enjoy ourselves without annoying interruptions." Audrey laughed loudly and replied, "How smart, sis. The old lady is going to take care of all those screaming brats while you guys dance, drink, and have fun. Perfect. That way they don't bother us during the ceremony or ruin the reception photos." "Exactly," Vivian continued, and her voice sounded different, colder. "I already told Mark that his mom is super good with kids and loves to take care of them. She won't even realize we're using her. She's always willing to help with whatever. It's like having a professional babysitter for free for the whole night. Besides, this way she stays busy and doesn't interrupt important conversations." "And she agreed?" Audrey asked. "We didn't even ask her directly," Vivian laughed. "Mark just mentioned that there would be some kids at the wedding, and she immediately offered to help if we needed anything. Of course, we said yes. She's perfect for the job. She has experience, and she's not going to charge us anything." I felt as if I had been slapped in the face. There I was in my kitchen with my hands full of flour, preparing cookies for their wedding, spending my money, my time, and my energy to make their day perfect, while they planned to use me as a free domestic worker without even asking me. "The best part of it all," Vivian continued, "is that since she'll be busy with the kids all night, she won't be able to eat much of the buffet she's preparing. More food for the important guests." The two of them laughed, as if they had just made the funniest joke in the world. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought they would hear it. 72 years of life, raising children, taking care of grandchildren, always putting family first, and this was how they paid me back, as if I were a servant available 24 hours a day. I stood there behind the curtain, feeling the rage rise from my feet to my head. But it wasn't just rage. It was a mix of pain, disappointment, and such deep humiliation that my chest ached. For 2 years, I had treated Vivian like the daughter I never had. I had welcomed her into my home with open arms, included her in all our family traditions. I had taught her the secret recipes that had been passed down from generation to generation in my family. I truly wonder if you were in my place, what would you do? Would you choose to be quiet to maintain peace, or would you dare to face everything to reclaim your voice? I want to know your opinion because every story is like a candle that can light the way for someone else. You know what else I love about the plan? Vivian continued, unaware that I was listening to every word. Since the old lady will be running after the kids all night, she won't be able to butt into our adult conversations. You know how mothers-in-law are, always wanting to give their opinion on everything and telling boring stories about when Mark was little. Audrey burst into laughter. Oh my God, yes, my mother-in-law is the same, always interrupting with her anecdotes from 50 years ago that nobody cares about. At least yours will be useful for once. Exactly. And the best part is that Mark thinks his mom is offering out of love. He doesn't realize we planned it this way from the beginning. Men are so naive, Vivian said with a malicious giggle. I heard Mark's footsteps approaching after he finished his phone call. What are you beautiful ladies laughing about so much? He asked, in that lovesick voice he always used with Vivian. I was just telling Audrey how organized I am, Vivian replied, immediately switching her tone back to that sweet one I knew so well. I've got everything figured out so the guests' children won't be a bother at the wedding. Your mom is going to watch them. My mom is an angel, Mark said proudly, always willing to help the family. It's incredible how she still has the energy to run after kids at her age. Yes. It's very convenient to have a mother-in-law like that, Vivian murmured, but Mark didn't catch the sarcasm in her voice. I moved away from the window feeling nauseous. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. This woman who had acted like the perfect daughter-in-law for 2 years, who had made me feel loved and respected, who had called me mom on special occasions, actually saw me as a free employee and a nuisance. I went up to my bedroom with trembling legs. I sat on the edge of my bed, the same one where I had slept with Mark's father for 30 years before cancer took him. I looked at the family photos on my nightstand, Mark graduating from college, his first communion, our vacations at the beach when he was little. I had dedicated my entire life to being the best mother possible. And now that I thought I would finally have a daughter, I discovered I was just a useful tool. For the next few days, I acted as if nothing had happened. When Mark called to ask me about the wedding preparations, I replied normally, Yes, son, everything is going perfectly. The buffet is going to be delicious. When Vivian came to visit and said, Mrs. Alice, don't worry too much about the wedding. Try to relax and enjoy yourself. I smiled and nodded. Of course, dear. I'm so excited. But inside, a plan was taking shape. If they wanted to play dirty, I could play too. After all, I had lived 72 years, raised a child alone after becoming a widow, managed a family business, and survived things they couldn't even imagine. I wasn't going to let them treat me like a servant right under my nose. On Wednesday morning, 3 days after I had overheard that conversation, I called my best friend Gabrielle. We had known each other for over 40 years and had always been confidants. Gabby, I need to tell you something, and then I need you to help me with a plan, I said without preamble. Oh, Alice, by the tone of your voice, I already know someone made you mad. Spill everything, Gabrielle replied with curiosity. I told her the whole story from the beginning, the conversation I had heard, how I felt, how Vivian had been acting with me for 2 years. Gabrielle listened in silence, and when I finished, she sighed deeply. Alice, that girl is a viper. How dare she talk about you like that after all you've done for them? You've spent a fortune on that wedding. You've dedicated months to organizing it, and this is how they pay you back. I know, Gabby, but here's the good part. I have a plan, and I need your help. Tell me everything. You know I'm with you for whatever you need. I explained my idea step by step. Gabrielle got so excited she started applauding on the other end of the phone. Alice, you're brilliant! That spoiled little girl is going to get the surprise of her life. You can count on me. I'll support you in everything. On Thursday, I began to execute the first part of my plan. I called all the vendors I had hired for the buffet. Good morning. This is Alice Smith. I need to cancel all the orders for Saturday's wedding. Yes, I know it's last minute, but a family emergency came up. Some tried to charge me penalties, but I managed to cancel everything by paying only small fees. Then I called the florist where I had ordered the additional arrangements I was going to give as a gift. Excuse me, I need to cancel the centerpieces for Saturday. No, I don't need them for another date. I just won't need them anymore. On Friday night, the day before the wedding, I packed a small suitcase. I put in clothes for 2 days, my medications, my favorite book, and some personal items. Mark had called earlier to confirm that everything was ready. Mom, how are the preparations going? Do you need me to come help you with anything? No, son, everything is perfect. Tomorrow is going to be a wonderful day. I replied with complete calm. Mom, you're the best. Vivian and I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for our wedding. You don't have to thank me for anything, Mark. Tomorrow, everything is going to go exactly as you two planned. That night, I barely slept, but it wasn't from nerves. It was from the excitement of knowing that I was finally going to get my dignity back. On Saturday morning, the day of the wedding, I woke up earlier than ever. It was 5 a.m., and my eyes were wide open with an energy I hadn't felt in years. I showered, did my hair, and put on my favorite dress, the coral one that I loved so much and that made me feel elegant. It wasn't the dress I had planned to wear to the wedding, but a special one that I saved for important occasions. And this was definitely an important day. Gabrielle arrived at 7 sharp, just as we had agreed. She had 2 suitcases and a knowing smile that filled me with courage. Ready for your day of freedom, Alice? She asked, hugging me tightly. More than ready, Gabby. I've been waiting for this moment for 2 years without knowing it. We had booked a luxury spa 2 hours outside of the city, a beautiful place with a lake view where we could completely relax. The plan included massages, facial treatments, gourmet food, and a room with a jacuzzi. Everything I had saved for the wedding buffet, I was now going to spend on myself for the first time in decades. Tell me whether you have parents, grandparents, or older family members who deserve more respect than they currently receive from their families. Alternatively, tell me if you yourself are going through a situation in which you're not appreciated as much as you truly deserve. Before we left, I wrote a letter that I left on the kitchen table right where Mark always sat when he came to visit me. Dear Mark, By the time you read this letter, I will be enjoying a well-deserved rest. For months, I prepared everything to make your wedding perfect, but yesterday, I found out that Vivian and you had other plans for me. Apparently, my role in your special day was to be the free babysitter for 15 children for the entire party, without anyone bothering to ask me if I wanted that job. Since the buffet I promised was also part of my unconsulted duties, I decided to cancel everything. I hope you find a quick solution. I'll be back Sunday night. With love, but with dignity, Mom. As Gabrielle loaded the suitcases into the car, I took one last look around my house. I looked at the kitchen where I had planned to cook all night for the buffet, the dining room where I had been arranging the centerpieces, the living room where I had tried out different floral arrangements. All of that had been done with love, but that love had been misinterpreted as obligation. "Alice, are you sure about this?" Gabrielle asked me when I got into the car. "Because once we drive away, there's no turning back." "Gabby, I'm 72 years old. If I don't respect myself now, when will I?" "Start the car." The drive to the spa was liberating. As we watched the scenery go by, Gabrielle and I talked about everything we had lived through together over the years. "Do you remember when our kids were little and we thought the biggest problems were that they wouldn't eat their vegetables?" Gabrielle laughed. "Now I miss those simple problems," I replied. "At least back then, when you did something out of love, it was received as love, not as servitude." We arrived at the spa at 10 a.m. The place was even more beautiful than I had seen in the online photos. Perfectly manicured gardens, a spectacular view of the lake, and an atmosphere of peace that immediately calmed me. The receptionist greeted us with champagne. "Welcome, ladies. Your rooms are ready, and your treatments will begin in 1 hour. Is it a special occasion?" "Yes," I replied with a genuine smile. "I'm celebrating my independence." As I settled into my beautiful room with a lake view, I began to imagine what was happening back in the city. The wedding would begin at 4 p.m., but the buffet preparations normally started very early. Mark would probably be calling me since 9 a.m. to ask if I needed help loading the food. At 11:30, just as I was entering my first massage treatment, my phone started ringing. It was Mark. I let it ring. 5 minutes later, it rang again and again. I turned off the phone. "Mrs. Alice, is everything okay?" the masseuse asked, seeing my smile. "Everything is perfect, dear. Please continue." For the next 3 hours, I was completely dedicated to enjoying myself. The hot stone massage relaxed muscles I didn't even know were tense. The facial left my skin glowing. Gabrielle and I had lunch at the spa's restaurant. Delicious food that I didn't have to cook myself, served by people who treated me with respect and kindness. "You know what I like most about all this?" I said to Gabrielle as we drank white wine on the terrace with a view of the lake. "What?" "That for the first time in 2 years, I'm doing exactly what I want to do when I want to do it, without having to ask anyone if it's okay or if they need me to do something else first." Gabrielle raised her glass. "Here's to that, and to the face Vivian must be making right now." At 3 p.m., I decided to turn my phone back on. I had 17 missed calls from Mark, 8 text messages, and surprisingly, 3 calls from Vivian. Mark had never called me so many times in a row in his entire life, not even when his dad was in the hospital. The text messages were increasingly desperate. "Mom, where are you? We've been calling all morning." "Mom, I found your letter. Please, call me urgently." "Mom, the wedding starts in an hour. Please answer." "Mom, where's the food? The guests are already arriving." "Mom, please, can we talk about this after the wedding? We need to fix the buffet now." Mom, Vivian is crying. Please help us. The last message had arrived 15 minutes ago. Mom, I know you're mad, but there are 15 children here and we don't know what to do with them. Their parents are asking us who is going to watch them. I took a deep breath and dialed Mark's number. He answered on the first ring. Mom, where are you? He yelled, with a desperation I had never heard from him. Hello, son. I'm at a beautiful spa with Gabrielle, enjoying a chocolate massage. How's your wedding? Mom, this can't be happening. The guests have already arrived, and there's no food. The caterers are asking where the buffet is. Vivian won't stop crying. Oh, son, didn't you read my letter? I explained everything there. I canceled the buffet when I found out that my real job was to be a babysitter, not a guest. But, Mom, the wedding has already started. We can't cancel now. Mark, you are a 5-year-old adult with a good job and a fiancé who is apparently very good at organizing. I'm sure you'll find a solution. Is there a fast food restaurant nearby? Mom, you can't be serious. Son, I've never been more serious in my life. Enjoy your wedding. We're going to enjoy our spa. Oh, and don't expect me home early tomorrow. We're going to have breakfast here, too. Wait, Mom. Vivian wants to talk to you. I heard noise, crying in the background, and desperate voices. Then Vivian's voice, no longer in her usual sweet tone. Alice, you can't do this to us. You promised the buffet. There are 150 people here. Vivian, my dear, I replied in the calmest voice I could. I promised the buffet when I thought I was a special guest at your wedding, but when I found out I was actually the free staff, I changed my mind. As the saying goes, labor is paid, and I was never paid for my services. But the kids! There are 15 children here, and their parents expect someone to watch them. Yes, I imagine that must be very difficult. Don't you have a sister who can help you? What was her name? Audrey. I heard she thinks I'm very good with kids. The silence on the other end of the phone was delicious. It lasted a few seconds that felt like an eternity. I could hear the chaos in the background, children crying, adults talking loudly, and what sounded like someone desperately moving tables and chairs. How? How do you know about Audrey? Vivian stammered. And for the first time in 2 years, her voice sounded broken, without that false confidence she always displayed. Oh dear, you learn a lot of things when you're 72. One of those things is that walls have ears, especially when people talk so loudly in my backyard. Alice, please, can we talk about this later? Right now, I need you to... No, Vivian, you don't need anything from me. According to what I heard, what you need is a professional babysitter. I suggest you look in the yellow pages. I think they charge around $15 an hour per child. Let's see. 15 children for 6 hours is $800. That's cheap compared to the $3,000 I spent on your buffet. I heard Vivian yell at someone in the background. Mark, your mom has gone crazy. She says she knows everything we talked about. Then I heard Mark's voice again, but now it sounded different, more serious, like when he was a little boy and knew he had done something wrong. Mom, you heard us when we were talking in the backyard? I heard many interesting things, son. For example, that I'm an old lady who is good for staying busy and not interrupting important adult conversations. I also heard that I am apparently so used to taking care of children that I won't even realize I'm being used. And my favorite, that I'm like having a professional babysitter for free for the whole night. The silence was even longer this time. Gabrielle, who had been listening to the entire conversation from her chair on the terrace, gave me a thumbs up. Mom, Mark began in the voice of a scolded child. Mark, you are 45 years old. You are a successful, intelligent man. Seriously, it never occurred to you to ask me if I wanted to spend the whole wedding running after 15 children instead of enjoying my only son's celebration? We thought you liked taking care of kids. I like taking care of my grandchildren once in a while, Mark. I don't like being the official wedding babysitter without anyone consulting me. And I definitely don't like hearing that my daughter-in-law thinks I'm a nuisance who needs to be kept busy so I don't bother anyone. Vivian didn't say that. Mark, I'm 72 years old. I don't have Alzheimer's. I heard every word. I heard when your wife told her sister that it was smart to get a free babysitter. I heard when they laughed that I wouldn't be able to eat much of the buffet because I would be busy. I heard when Audrey said that at least your mother-in-law was going to be useful for once. This time, the silence was interrupted by the screams of a child in the background and a woman's voice saying, "Where is the lady who was going to watch the kids? My son escaped and is running all over the garden." There's your answer, son. The show has started. Mom, please, come. We'll pay you. We'll give you $500 to watch the kids. I laughed so hard that Gabrielle was startled. 500 on Mark. 5 minutes ago, it was a family favor that I was supposed to do out of love. And now that you've realized I'm not as dumb as you thought, you want to pay me $100 to ruin my coral dress running after kids I don't even know. Vivian yelled in the background. Vivian, my dear, there isn't enough money in the world for me to go to that wedding now, but I'll give you some free advice. Next time you plan to use someone as an employee, ask them first. It's polite. 2,000, Mark yelled. And now he sounded completely desperate. Mark, my son, listen to me carefully. If you had $2,000 to pay me to be a babysitter, you also had money to hire someone instead of making me spend my retirement on your wedding buffet. But it turns out it was more convenient for Mom to pay for everything and also work for free, wasn't it? Gabrielle poured me more wine and whispered, "You are brilliant, my friend." Mom, Mark's voice was now breaking. "Please don't do this to me. It's my wedding." Mark, I'm not doing anything to you. You did something to me. You and your fiancé decided that I was your personal employee without consulting me. I'm just deciding that I don't accept that job. But we can't get catering at this hour. The guests are going to go hungry. You know what, son? That's called planning. When you organize a wedding, you're supposed to make sure you have food and a babysitter. You assumed you had both for free, but you were wrong. Alice, come back right now, or we will never forgive you, Vivian screamed. And now her true personality was fully revealed. There it is, I said to Gabrielle as I covered the phone. There's the real Vivian. I uncovered the phone and replied in the calmest voice in the world. Vivian, my dear, there is nothing to forgive. You planned to use me. I decided not to let myself be used. It's that simple, and frankly, after hearing your true tone of voice, I'm very glad I'm not there. You're a selfish old woman! You ruined my wedding, Vivian yelled. No, dear, you ruined your wedding when you decided it was more important to save money than to treat your mother-in-law with respect. I just decided not to be an accomplice to my own humiliation. Mark took the phone back. Mom, the kids are running everywhere. One got into the kitchen and knocked over the whole cake. Another one is hiding under the main table. The parents are furious. Mark, and where is the smart Audrey? Can't she help her sister with the kids? Audrey says she didn't know she had to watch kids, that was your job. How convenient. The same Audrey who was laughing that the old lady was going to watch all the screaming brats now turns out she can't help. Mom, please. Mark, I'm going to hang up now because my chocolate massage is waiting. But first, let me tell you something. I hope this experience teaches you that your mother is not your personal employee. I am a 72-year-old woman who deserves respect, not a servant you can use whenever it's convenient for you. Wait, Mom. What, Mark? Are you really not coming? I am really not coming. Enjoy your wedding. We are going to enjoy our spa. And tomorrow we'll see. First, I want you to reflect on what happened here, and I want your wife to reflect on what it means to have a family. But Mom, Mark, I have to hang up. My masseuse is waiting for me, and unlike you, she treats me with respect because I'm paying for her services. I hung up the phone and silenced it. Gabrielle was applauding. Alice, that was masterful. How do you feel? I feel free, Gabby. For the first time in 2 years, I feel completely free. After hanging up the phone, I stayed seated on the spa terrace, looking at the lake and feeling a peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. Gabrielle watched me with a mix of admiration and concern. Alice, are you sure you did the right thing? She asked as she took a sip of her wine. I mean, I know you were right, but Mark is your only son. Gabby, precisely because he is my only son, I need to teach him this lesson. If I don't do it now, Vivian is going to turn him into someone who treats his own mother like a domestic employee, and I will not allow that. For the next 2 hours, my phone vibrated constantly, but I kept it on silent. Gabrielle and I enjoyed our spa treatments as if nothing were happening. The collagen facial left my skin as soft as a child's, and the aromatic oil massage relaxed muscles that had been tense for years from the stress of trying to be the perfect grandmother. You know what's the funniest thing about all this? I said to Gabrielle while we were in the jacuzzi watching the sunset. What? That for 2 years I tried so hard to be the ideal mother-in-law that I lost my own identity. I cooked what she liked. I decorated how she thought was pretty. I even changed the way I dressed to fit her image of the perfect grandmother. I always thought that was strange, Gabrielle admitted. You, who were always so independent, suddenly seemed to be asking permission for everything. You were right, and the worst part is that the more I tried to please her, the less she respected me. To her, my willingness to help was weakness, not love. At 8 p.m., I decided to check my phone. I had 43 missed calls, 26 text messages, and, to my surprise, several messages from unknown numbers. Apparently, some relatives had gotten my number to try to convince me to come back. The messages were increasingly desperate and revealing. From Mark. Mom, we had to order pizza for all the guests. We spent $200 on pizza. From Mark. The parents of 3 kids already left angry because no one could watch them. From Mark. Vivian is in the bathroom crying. She says you ruined the most important day of her life. From Mark. Mom, the photographer is asking if he can take family photos. I told him that Grandma couldn't make it. From an unknown number. This is Mike, Vivian's dad. Please, Mrs. Alice, come help us. My daughter is devastated. From another unknown number. Alice, this is Audrey. I know you heard our conversation. Please forgive us. It was just a joke. I laughed as I read Audrey's message. A joke, Gabby? Planning to use someone as a free employee is a very expensive joke. But the message that caught my attention the most was from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Alice, this is Carol, the mom of one of the kids at your son's wedding. I wanted to tell you that several of us parents are very upset because they told us someone was watching the children, and it turns out no one was. Some of us already left. What they did to you is not right. Look at this, Gabby. I showed the message to Gabrielle. Apparently, I'm not the only one who thinks what they did was wrong. Of course not. Any decent person would realize that treating the groom's mother like that is unacceptable. At 9 p.m., as we were having dinner at the spa's elegant restaurant, my phone rang again. This time, it was a number I recognized. My sister-in-law, Elaine, my late husband's sister. Alice, what's going on? Mark called me crying, saying you didn't go to his wedding. Elaine had always been direct and honest with me. I told her the whole story from the beginning, including the conversation I had heard and how I had felt. Alice, you did perfectly, she told me without a moment's hesitation. If my brother were alive, he would have gone to find Mark himself to teach him a lesson. No one treats a mother like that, especially after everything you've done for that family. Do you really think I did the right thing, Elaine? Alice, I've known Mark since he was born. He's a good boy, but that woman has him completely manipulated. It was time for someone to open his eyes. And if that someone had to be you, his own mother, then so be it. Elaine told me that other relatives had already found out what had happened because Mark had been calling everyone asking for help. Most of them are on your side, Alice. Your cousin Rose says Vivian always seemed fake to her, and your nephew Charles is furious with Mark for treating you like that. After talking to Elaine, I felt more confident in my decision. I wasn't being a cruel mother. I was being a mother who respects herself and teaches her son to do the same. At 10 p.m., Gabrielle and I retired to our rooms. I had a beautiful suite with a private terrace overlooking the lake. I put on my most comfortable nightgown, poured myself a glass of wine from the bottle in the minibar, and sat on the terrace to look at the stars. My phone kept vibrating constantly, but it no longer bothered me. Each vibration was a confirmation that I had made the right decision. If Mark and Vivian were truly sorry for what they had done, they would have sent a sincere message apologizing instead of continuing to try to manipulate me into solving their problem. Finally, at 11 p.m., I decided to read all the messages that had arrived in the last 3 hours. From Mark. Mom, the wedding is over. It was a total disaster. From Mark. The kids broke 2 centerpieces and stained a guest's dress. From Mark. Vivian's sister had to watch some of the kids and she's furious with us. From Mark. Vivian says she's not going to forgive me for my mom ruining her wedding. From Mark. Mom, why are you doing this to me? I thought you loved me. That last message hurt my heart, but it also confirmed that Mark still didn't understand anything. It wasn't about love. It was about respect. I could love my son with all my heart and at the same time refuse to allow him to disrespect me. I decided to respond only to that last message. Mark, precisely because I love you is why I won't allow you to treat me like an employee. A son who loves his mother doesn't plan to use her without consulting her. A son who loves his mother doesn't allow his wife to make fun of her. I love you, but I also love myself. And it was time for you to know that. The response came immediately. Mom, Vivian is saying that maybe it's better if we move to another city. She says she can't live in the same place as someone who ruined her wedding. I read that message 3 times before responding. Vivian was playing her final card, emotionally blackmailing Mark, threatening to take him away from me. Mark, if Vivian wants to move because she can't face the consequences of her actions, that is a decision you must make as adults. But know that a woman who truly loves you would never pull you away from your family as punishment for something you didn't know. There was no response after that. I stayed on the terrace until very late, listening to the sound of the lake water and feeling a profound tranquility. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't worried about whether I had pleased someone else. I wasn't thinking about what I could cook for Mark tomorrow, or what favor I could do for Vivian, or how I could be a better mother-in-law. I was thinking about myself, about Alice, the 72-year-old woman who had raised a wonderful son, who had maintained a happy marriage for 30 years, who had survived widowhood with dignity, and who deserved to be treated with respect by her own family. That night, I slept better than I had in months. On Sunday morning, I woke up with a strange feeling. I felt rested and at peace. It had been a long time since I had woken up without that constant anxiety of thinking about what I would need to do to keep everyone happy. Gabrielle and I had agreed to meet for breakfast at 9, but I was already awake at 7, enjoying the silence and the view of the lake from my terrace. My phone had remained silent all night, which I found more meaningful than all the desperate messages from the day before. Either Mark had finally gotten the message, or he was so angry that he had decided not to talk to me anymore. Both options seemed better than continuing to receive messages trying to manipulate me. When Gabrielle and I met at the spa restaurant for breakfast, she looked at me with curiosity. "You look different, Alice, lighter." "I feel different, Gabby. It's as if I had been carrying a huge weight on my shoulders for 2 years and had finally taken it off." We ordered a full breakfast with fresh fruit, yogurt, pancakes, and good coffee. As we ate, we talked about everything except the wedding. We talked about our plans for the coming months, about the books we wanted to read, about trips we had dreamed of taking but always postponed to be available for our family's needs. "You know what, Gabby? I think we're going to take that trip to Europe we've always planned." "Seriously? You're not going to wait to see if Mark and Vivian need you to watch their future children. Mark is 45. If he decides to have children, he can hire a babysitter like all normal people do. I'll be available as a grandmother, not as a domestic employee." After breakfast, we decided to extend our stay a little longer. We reserved the private jacuzzi for 2 more hours and spent the morning completely relaxing. It was the first time in years that I had spent so much time thinking solely about my well-being. At 12 noon, as we were packing our things to return, I decided to turn my phone on again. I had 3 new messages, all from Mark, sent in the early morning. "Mom, Vivian and I talked all night. She's very hurt, but she admits that maybe we didn't treat you well. Can we talk when you get back?" The messages were different, less desperate, more thoughtful. But I also noticed something important. There was no real apology, only an admission that maybe they hadn't treated me well. Maybe wasn't enough for what had happened. I decided not to answer yet. I wanted to get home, settle into my own bed, and think carefully about what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. The return trip was quiet. Gabrielle and I talked about what this weekend had meant to me. "You know what's the most important thing I learned, Gabby? That you can love your family and set boundaries at the same time. All these years, I thought that loving meant saying yes to everything, but now I understand that sometimes loving means saying no." "That's a lesson many women of our generation need to learn," Gabrielle replied. "We were raised to believe that our value depended on how much we sacrificed for others." I arrived home at 5 p.m. The house felt different, as if it had been empty for much longer than 2 days. I made myself some tea, put on my most comfortable clothes, and sat in my favorite armchair in the living room. It was time to decide what I would do next. At 6 p.m., the doorbell rang. I looked through the window and saw Mark's car parked outside. He was standing at my door alone with his head bowed. I took a deep breath and went to open it. "Hi, Mom," he said in a soft voice. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept in days. Hi, Mark. Come in. We sat in the living room, he on the sofa and I in my armchair. Silence stretched for a few minutes until Mark finally spoke. Mom, I have to apologize. I'm listening. Vivian and I talked all night after the wedding. At first, she was furious with you. But when I told her exactly what you had heard, she realized how bad everything she had said sounded. And you realized it too? Mark lowered his head even more. Yes, Mom. I realized that for 2 years I've been treating you as if you were my employee instead of my mother. And how do you feel about that? I feel horrible. I feel ashamed. Dad must be rolling in his grave for how I treated the woman he loved for 30 years. That mention of his father touched my heart, but I kept my composure. Mark, I need you to understand something. It's not just about what happened with the wedding. It's about 2 years of assuming I was available for everything without ever asking me if I wanted to do it. I know, Mom, and you're right. When Vivian suggested we ask you for help with something, I never stopped to think if it was fair to you. I just thought, Mom always says yes, so there's no problem. And Vivian, how does she really feel? Mark sighed deeply. She's embarrassed. She says she never had a mother-in-law before, and that she didn't know how to treat you. But she recognizes that what she said about you with Audrey was very well wrong. Mark, does she recognize that? Or are you trying to soften what she really thinks? No, Mom. She recognizes it. In fact, she wants to come apologize to you personally, but I told her I had to talk to you first. I stood up and walked to the window. The garden looked neglected. I had been so busy with the wedding preparations that I hadn't had time to take care of my flowers. Mark, I need to ask you a very direct question, and I want you to answer me honestly. Tell me, Mom, does Vivian respect me as a person, or does she see me as a useful resource who is available when she needs me? Mark was silent for a long moment. Mom, I think until yesterday the two things had been confused. But after seeing the consequences of treating you like a resource, she realized that she had lost sight of the person. And you, do you see me as your mother or as your personal employee? Mom, that question hurts, but I understand why you're asking it. And the honest answer is that for these 2 years, without realizing it, I started to see you more as someone who solved my problems than as my mother, who deserved to be consulted and respected. I sat down again and looked him directly in the eyes. Mark, I appreciate your honesty, but I need you to understand that things are going to change from now on. I understand, Mom. What do you need from us? I need that the next time you want to ask me for a favor, you ask me if I can, and if I want to do it. Not that you assume I'm going to say yes. I need you to treat me as a guest at your family events, not as service staff. And I need Vivian to understand that I am the mother of her husband, not her employee. All of that is fair, Mom. Anything else? Yes. I need you to understand that I have the right to say no without giving explanations, and that when I say no, you are not going to try to manipulate me or make me feel guilty so I change my mind. Understood? Understood. And Mark, one more thing. The next time Vivian speaks ill of me to someone, you are going to defend me. You are not going to stay silent while your wife disrespects me. Mark nodded vigorously. You're right, Mom. I should have defended you from the beginning. We were silent for a few minutes. I could see that Mark was processing everything we had talked about. Mom, do you forgive me? Mark, you are my son, and I will always love you. But forgiveness is something that is built with actions, not just with words. I need to see real changes in how you treat me before I can say that everything is forgiven. That's fair. And Vivian, are you going to give her a chance to apologize? If she really wants to apologize, not because you asked her to, but because she is truly sorry for how she treated me, then yes, I will listen to her. She wants to, Mom, but she's afraid you'll reject her. Mark, I don't reject people who apologize sincerely, but I also don't accept fake apologies just to keep the peace. She wants to do it, Mom. I understand. When would be a good time for her to come? Give her a few days to think carefully about what she wants to say. And Mark, make sure she understands that I don't expect her to pretend that we're best friends overnight. I just expect basic respect. Mark stayed a little longer at my house, and for the first time in a long time, we had a real mother-son conversation, not a boss-employee one. He talked to me about how he had felt during the wedding, seeing the guests wonder why there was no prepared food and why the children were running around unsupervised everywhere. Mom, when the parents started asking me where the person who was going to watch the kids was, I realized that we had never asked you if you wanted to do that job. We just assumed it. And how did you feel when you realized that? I felt like an idiot, Mom, and I felt ashamed that my own mother had to teach me such a basic lesson about respect. When Mark left that night, I kept thinking about our conversation. He seemed genuinely sorry, but I also knew that apologies are easy when you are faced with the consequences of your actions. The true test would be to see if the changes lasted beyond this crisis. The next 3 days were quiet. I didn't receive any calls asking for favors, no messages assuming I would be available for cooking, cleaning, or taking care of anything. At first, I thought they were angry and punishing me with silence, but then I realized that they were simply respecting my space like they never had before. The first real test came on the Friday of the second week. Mark called me around 7 p.m., and from the tone of his voice, I could tell he was nervous. Mom, I need to ask you a favor. My heart sank a little. They were going back to the old patterns. Tell me, Mark. It's Vivian's birthday on Saturday, and I wanted to throw her a surprise party. Could you help me organize it? Mark, are you asking me to organize the whole party for you? No, Mom, not at all. I already hired the catering, booked the venue, and sent the invitations. I just need help with the decoration because you have very good taste for that kind of thing. But obviously, I'll pay you for your time and your ideas. I was surprised. Mark had done most of the work himself. He was only asking for specific help with something he knew I was good at, and he was offering to pay me. Mark, you don't need to pay me to help with the decoration. That's something I can do as a gift for Vivian. But I appreciate that you asked instead of assuming. You would really help. Of course. I think it's a very sweet gesture on your part. Thanks, Mom. And if at any point you feel it's too much work, just tell me, and I'll hire someone else. Okay, son. That conversation confirmed to me that the changes were real. Mark had learned to plan his own events, not to assume my availability, and to offer compensation for my time. But most importantly, he had learned to give me an out without making me feel guilty. The Saturday of Vivian's birthday party was a complete revelation. Mark and I spent the morning decorating his backyard with gold balloons and fresh flowers. He had bought all the materials and just needed my ideas on how to combine the colors and where to place everything. We worked together as a team, talking and laughing as we transformed the space. Mom, this looks beautiful, Mark said as we hung the last lights. Vivian is going to be so excited. I hope so. It's clear that you love her very much. I do. But I also learned that loving my wife doesn't mean I stop respecting my mother. I'm glad you learned that, son. When Vivian arrived that night, pretending she was just coming for an intimate dinner. Her surprise was genuine and touching. When she saw the decorated backyard and all her friends waiting for her, she started crying with joy. "I can't believe you did all this," she exclaimed, hugging Mark. "Mrs. Alice helped me with the decoration," Mark said. "She has an incredible talent for these things." Vivian came up to me and gave me a sincere hug. "Thank you, Mrs. Alice. Everything looks beautiful. It was a pleasure to help, Vivian. Happy birthday." During the party, I observed how Mark and Vivian interacted with me. They included me in conversations. They introduced me to their friends as Mark's mom, with pride, not as the lady who had helped with the decoration. They sat me at the main table as family, not at a separate table as service staff. Most significantly, when one of Vivian's friends commented on how beautiful the decoration was, "Vivian, you have exquisite taste. Where did you learn to decorate like that?" Vivian immediately replied, "Actually, it was Mrs. Alice who designed everything. She has a natural talent for these things. I was just lucky that she helped me." Instead of taking credit for my work, Vivian gave it to me completely. It was a small but significant change that showed me she had truly understood the lesson. 2 months after the disastrous wedding, I received a call I didn't expect. It was Carol, the mother who had sent me that text message during the wedding. "Mrs. Alice, I hope you remember me. I'm Carol, the mom of one of the kids from your son's wedding." "Of course I remember you, Carol. How are you?" "I'm good, thanks. I'm calling because I wanted to tell you something. Do you remember Mike, Vivian's dad?" "Yes. What about him?" "Well, he and I met at the wedding when we were all trying to control our kids without supervision. We started talking about what had happened with you, and we both agreed that what they did to you was very wrong. And well, we've been dating ever since, and he's told me more details about the situation. I wanted you to know that he also scolded Vivian for how they treated you." I laughed softly. "Seriously? Vivian's dad defended me?" "Yes, and pretty strongly. He told Vivian that you had been incredibly generous preparing the buffet, and that using you as a babysitter without consulting you was unacceptable. He says he felt very ashamed when he found out about the whole story." "I'm glad to know that, Carol." "Mrs. Alice, all of us parents who were at that wedding were very impressed with what you did. Not many people your age would have the courage to stand up for themselves like that. Sometimes you have to defend yourself no matter your age." "Exactly. And we wanted you to know that we respect you a lot for that." That call filled me with unexpected satisfaction. Not only had I defended my dignity with my own family, but my example had resonated with other people who had witnessed the situation. 3 months after the wedding, Vivian invited me to lunch. Just the two of us. We met at a quiet cafe near my house, and during the meal, we had the most honest conversation we had ever had. "Mrs. Alice, can I tell you something personal?" "Of course, Vivian. Since the wedding, I've been going to therapy." "Really? Why?" "Because I realized that I have problems relating to maternal figures. After my mom died when I was 15, I developed defense mechanisms that included devaluing other older women to protect myself emotionally. That explains a lot of things." "Yes. My therapist helped me understand why I felt so threatened by you at first. You represented everything I had lost when my mom died, and instead of allowing myself to miss my mom, I decided to act as if mothers weren't important." "Vivian, that must have been very painful for you." "It was, but I didn't realize it. I thought I had gotten over my mom's death, but in reality, I had just buried the pain." "And how do you feel now?" "I feel freer, and I feel grateful to have a second chance with you," says Vivian. "I really appreciate you telling me this, and I'm glad to know you're working on yourself. Mrs. Alice, Would you allow me to start over as if we were meeting for the first time? What do you mean? I want to truly get to know you, your stories, your dreams, your opinions, not as the mother-in-law who can be useful, but as Alice, the person. I would like that very much, Vivian. Can I ask you a question? As many as you want. What dream of yours went unfulfilled when you got married and had Mark? The question surprised me with its depth. I always wanted to write a book. About what? About my grandmother's recipes and our family's stories. But I always found excuses not to start. And why don't you start now? Vivian, I'm 72 years old. Isn't it too late? Mrs. Alice, you taught me that it's never too late to stand up for yourself and change a situation. Maybe it's also not too late to fulfill a dream. That conversation planted a seed in my mind. For the next few weeks, I began to think seriously about writing that book I had always wanted to write. 6 months after the wedding, Mark and Vivian invited me over for dinner to give me some special news. "Mom, we're pregnant," Mark announced with a huge smile. "How wonderful," I exclaimed, hugging them both. "I'm going to be a grandmother," Vivian said, taking my hands. "We want to ask you something important. Tell me." "We want you to be the grandmother who chooses how much you want to be involved. We are not going to assume anything. We are not going to expect you to watch the baby when we want to go out. We want you to decide what kind of grandmother you want to be. And if you want to be the grandmother who comes to have tea and tells stories once a week, that's perfect," Mark added. "If you want to be the grandmother who watches the baby occasionally, that's also perfect, you decide." I was moved to tears. Children, that's all I ever wanted. The freedom to choose how to love my family. "And what do you choose, Mrs. Alice?" Vivian asked. "I choose to be a grandmother who is available when you truly need me, but who also has her own life, her own plans, and her own dreams." "Perfect," Mark said. "That's exactly what we want." A year after the disastrous wedding, I published my book of family recipes. It was called Cooking with Love, Serving with Dignity, Recipes and Reflections from a Modern Grandmother. Vivian helped me promote it on social media, and Mark organized a launch party at their house. During the book's presentation, I reflected on everything that had happened since that afternoon when I heard that conversation in my backyard. This book, I told the guests, is not just about recipes. It's about the importance of maintaining our dignity while serving the people we love. It's about the difference between giving out of love and being used for convenience. After the presentation, Vivian approached me. "Mrs. Alice, I have something to confess." "What?" "The person who most inspired this book was you. Your courage to stand up for yourself taught me that you can love deeply and at the same time respect yourself." "Vivian, that means a lot to me." "Mrs. Alice, can I call you Mom Alice from now on?" "I would love that, dear." That night, as I signed copies of my book, I realized that the decision not to go to that wedding had been the best decision I had made in years. Not only had I regained my dignity, but I had taught my family the true meaning of mutual respect. Now I am 73. With a grandchild on the way, a published book, and a family that treats me as the respected matriarch I always should have been. Sometimes, saying no is the most powerful way of saying yes to yourself. The names and places in this story have been changed to protect the identities of those involved. We do not share this to judge, but in the hope that someone will pause and reflect on how many mothers are silently suffering within their own homes. I truly wonder, if you were in my place, what would you do? Would you choose silence to preserve peace, or would you dare to confront everything in order to reclaim your voice? I long to hear your thoughts, because every story is like a candle that can light the path for someone else. I firmly believe that God always blesses, and that courage leads us toward brighter days. As we close, I leave you with two of the channel's most beloved stories. I am certain they will surprise and inspire you. Thank you for staying with me until this moment.